I'm 6'9", but my dog dwarfs me at over 7 feet tall, fully extended. If you've never seen a Great Dane in person, let me tell you, there is nothing like receiving love and loyalty from an animal that could kill you if it wanted to. I mean, just look at the obsession with people having lions, tigers, and bears as pets. It is so cool to have a big animal love you. I just draw the line at domesticated. So if you love animals, you love big animals, and you love dogs, man, I am so excited to tell you all about the Great Dane breed and my Great Dane Hobbes. Hobbes is a 4-year-old American Great Dane. When I got him, he was only 25 pounds at 8 weeks old, and now he's almost 180. And a quick disclaimer for this video. I am not an expert or a vet. I've had Hobbes for 4 years, and I have learned a lot through that process. Just want to let you know that everything that I claim in this video will be sourced below, but be sure to talk to a vet when it comes to any health concerns that you might have for your Great Dane, or if you're considering getting one. So let's start with history. Great Danes were originally bred from Irish wolfhounds and English mastiffs. They were used for hunting dogs, and you can still look it up online if you want. They used to hunt and rip apart boar. Gangs of them would hunt the boar, hold it down, and violently rip them apart. They were also used as protection dogs for German royalty. But now, a few hundred years later, they are gentle giants. Well, you still see a little bit of the hunting instincts when Hobbes gets a hold of a stuffed animal, but no live boar here. So now let's talk temperament. Hobbes, as I just said, is a gentle giant. Every stranger he meets is his new best friend. There's no one that Hobbes doesn't love. But the protective nature can still kick in. If Hobbes senses a threat outside, or he's even done it when we're going for walks with a baby, he will stand in front, bark, growl, and that's when you know something's up, because he loves everybody. And I always trust a dog's instincts. Our neighbors, even a few houses down, say when he goes off, they can hear his bark. Luckily, he doesn't do that often, right, buddy? Good boy, I love you, Hobbes. In fact, last summer I had my first son. He's now 1 year old, and Hobbes has been fantastic with him throughout the whole first year of his life. He has developed an incredible bond with him. They lay down, they even play a little bit, they snuggle together. Hobbes is extremely protective of him. And even when my son was a newborn, Hobbes was very gentle with him. He was very aware of the fact that he was a newborn. Now, would I ever let a 180-pound dog alone with my baby? No, you shouldn't do that with any dog. It's just not worth the risk. But I do personally believe that Hobbes would give his life to protect my son. Going off of that on temperament, Great Danes are relatively low energy dogs. A couple of play sessions, walks, and zoomies, and they're already belly up on the couch, just wanting to snuggle. And this brings me to a common misconception about Great Danes. You see, lots of people think you have to have a big house or yard to have a monster like this. But actually, Great Danes are rated top 5 best dogs for an apartment because they're so lazy and lackadaisical throughout the day. They just want to lay down and snuggle. Great Danes are very expressive and emotional dogs. Very expressive with their eyes. If you get after them and hurt their feelings, man, you will feel awful, because they can do the Bambi eyes. They can be goofy. They're very expressive with their eyes and ears. Hobbes, come back. I'm almost done. Not really. Concluding on temperament, these dogs are very easy to train. They form a loving bond with you. They want to please you. At the end of the day, your dog's temperament is your responsibility. When this dog is small, when you first get them, that's when you build your foundation of good behavior, because once the dog is 180 pounds and he knows he doesn't have to listen to you, you've got a problem. So make sure you drill down your training, drill down your commands, and set the ground rules for your relationship while they're young. That brings me to what you can expect if you get a Great Dane puppy at 8 weeks old or any time when they're very young. They're gonna be very clumsy, okay? They grow so fast. Most of their growing happens in their first year of life, and people told me that you would be able to see them grow each and every day, see them get bigger day by day. I didn't believe them, but I can say from experience, you absolutely can see them grow daily. They get bigger and bigger and bigger, 25 pounds to 150 in Hobbes' first year of life. It was unbelievable. And then after that first year of growing, they really just thicken out. Like almost all puppies, Great Danes definitely have a nipping stage. I remember the Great Dane community on Reddit refers to it as the velociraptor phase. They're very nippy, they claw at you, and it's important to nip that in the butt while they're young, while also understanding that they will naturally grow out of that. Okay, now everyone's favorite part, cost. Great Danes are a more expensive dog. My wife bought Hobbes for me as a present for $800. Now that is relatively cheap for a Great Dane. The reason why Great Danes are typically show dogs nowadays, believe it or not, and Hobbes has asymmetrical front paws, so they're not perfectly symmetrical. The white on his front paws and the white on his chest isn't symmetrical either. So he's technically not a black Great Dane, and he's not a perfect mantle Great Dane, so he's not perfect for being a show dog, which I obviously don't care about. So great deal on an incredible dog. But that also means that you can probably expect to pay more for one if you're getting one for yourself. In Hobbes' own litter, he had sisters that were Harlequins going for over $4,000. I wanna make sure I get them all, but there are many different coats and colorings of Great Danes. You have the black, the blue, the brindle, the mantle, the merle, the fawn, and the harlequin. And all of those will vary in price based off their pedigree. There's also a small variation between American Great Danes and European Great Danes. Hobbes is an American Great Dane. There are very subtle differences, no differences in temperament. It's really just in minor appearance things. Typically, American Great Danes have a more taut face, less sag and extra skin in their face. It's more taut. And a European Great Dane is just a little more loose, I guess you could say. So for cost, you have the cost to adopt. Now for raising the dog, I use a combination of Purina Pro Plan and eggs and chicken to feed Hobbes. Now when I got Hobbes in 2020, the bags of food that would last me a month were about 40 bucks. Now they're $90, thanks to inflation. At the end of the day, with the joint supplements that I also give Hobbes every day for the whole month, and heartworm medication, I would say it costs about $150 a month for me to feed and keep Hobbes healthy. Now, of course, when it comes to cost, you have to consider health. There are common misconceptions about Great Danes. In fact, when people come up and see Hobbes in public, there's really three things that they'll say to you. They'll say, hey, is that a horse? Oh, can I ride it? And now, believe it or not, strangers will come up to you and say, hey, they don't live that long, right? Which...
I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time.
I get it, but I do believe that's a common misconception. And the first thing that you have to keep in mind with that is that the #1 killer of Great Danes is bloat. Now to quickly explain bloat as a non-veterinarian, basically Great Danes' stomachs are not attached to their rib cage. So if they eat food and get too active after they eat food, the stomach can actually flip upside down and tie in a knot on the front and end. And if that happens to them, they're most likely gonna be dead within a few hours. Now, if you notice that they have it, you can get them to the vet, have emergency surgery. That emergency surgery will probably cost you $8,000 to $10,000, and they still might not make it. It is the #1 killer of Great Danes. And that is why if you're considering getting a Great Dane, the most important thing that I want you to remember is you should save money for the bloat surgery if you're getting a Great Dane. What that is once your Dane is fully grown, you take them to the vet. Not all vets do it, but you can find a vet that does it. We did ours with Dr. Ball in Jupiter, Florida, and what you can do is they sedate the dog, put him under for surgery, and they will actually stitch and pin and tack the stomach to the rib cage so that it no longer can flip over. This costs about $2,000 is what I paid. I strongly believe that if you get a Great Dane and you want it to live as long as possible, you should save money and make sure you get the surgery for your dog. Can a Great Dane live a long and healthy life without it? Sure, but there is a lot of stress that comes with. Now, I treat Hobbes like he hasn't even had the surgery, and we still work to prevent bloat. That happens with training from a young age. Hobbes, before he eats and after he eats, is going to remain still, not perfectly still, no playing, no walks, an hour before and an hour after eating, so that the food can get into his stomach and settle and have less of a chance of flipping. That being said, it can happen so easily, and it can kill Great Danes so quickly. Get the surgery. So when you're thinking about, oh, I can get this Great Dane for 1,500 bucks, add 2,000 of that, because once they turn 1 to 2 years old, you're gonna wanna get that surgery because it will dramatically increase their chances at living a long and healthy life. That being said, the average lifespan of a Great Dane is anywhere between 8 to 10 years. That's just the average, and I believe that average is brought down significantly by dogs dying of bloat. So if you get that surgery, I see Great Danes living to 12, 13, 14 all the time on the Treasure Coast Great Dane page on Facebook, on the Reddit community on Facebook for Great Danes. these dogs can live a long time. So to summarize, if you get a Great Dane, please put aside money to get that surgery. Make sure they can stay strong and healthy. Another killer of Great Danes is their hips and joints. They obviously have big, strong joints. And as they get to that 8 to 10 range, sometimes their hips go bad. So it's very important to keep your dog active and make sure they're on some sort of joint medication. I think I could easily get 10 to 12 years out of Hobbes. And keep in mind, that's the average lifespan of a Golden Retriever, okay? So do Great Danes live less on average, you all right, buddy, than other dogs? Yes. All big animals typically have a smaller lifespan than smaller animals, okay? Guess what? Bigger humans have a shorter lifespan than smaller humans. I'm 6'9". I'm probably not gonna live as long as someone who's 5'4". It's just reality. Hobbes and I are in this together, but I would not make the lifespan thing a big deciding factor on you being scared of getting a Great Dane. On average, they're living almost as long as other mid-sized dogs like Labs and Golden Retrievers, especially if you take good care of them, get that surgery, take care of their joints. Like I said, I see Great Danes making it to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old frequently. Just take good care of your dog, and I'm sure, unless there's some major emergency, you will get a good, loving life out of them. And hey, as Don Mazzetti says, live large, die large, leave a big coffin. All right, last 2 points. Responsibility. This is a point that every Great Dane owner should fully grasp and understand. Your dog is giant, and even though they're a loving snuggle monster, there is an inherent responsibility to owning a massive dog that typically smaller dog owners do not have to worry about. Now, all dogs should be on leashes in public places, but we all know that people let smaller dogs run around, bite, nip, bark at people, be all aggressive. You cannot do that with a Great Dane. If you have a Great Dane, you need to have it leashed at all times. You need to have that dog fully under control, because it is not cute when a 180-pound dog with massive teeth is sprinting towards a stranger. All right, if it's a Chihuahua, maybe it's cute, maybe it's silly because it poses no threat. Even if your dog isn't gonna hurt anybody, you cannot put your dog in danger by letting them off leash at all. I take Hobbes to the beach 3 to 4 times a week. We walk to the left or right until there is no one around before I let him off and let him free. Now, if people want to come play with Hobbes, absolutely. If he's on leash, everyone pets him. Everyone loves Hobbes. I'm just saying there's small dog privilege, and when you have a small dog, you can get away with having your dog be a little less trained, a little less cordial, a little less friendly. You better make sure your Great Dane is well trained from the time it's a puppy, very well socialized, and under your command and control at all times. If it isn't, you need to make sure you're working on that, because this is a big and scary dog to most people, okay? There is an extra level of responsibility that you have when you have a Great Dane, and I want you to take that to heart. And the last thing I'll end with is if I have any regrets on how I've raised Hobbes over the past 4 years. And there is only one. Hobbes was a loving dog that could play with any dog, no issues. Unfortunately, we were walking around our neighborhood and a Golden Retriever of all dogs came sprinting out of one of our neighbors' garages. And before I knew it, I had Hobbes on a leash. This Golden Retriever just ran out of the house. It had latched onto Hobbes' throat, thrashed around a little bit, and gave him some very serious bleeding and cuts in his throat. Since that day, Hobbes is very defensive and sometimes aggressive towards other male dogs. Never had that problem before. It happened when he was about 2.5 years old. And unfortunately, that attack was so violent that my dog will never be the same. Now, in that situation, there wasn't much I could have done to avoid what happened to Hobbes, but I would recommend making sure that you are basically doing a background check on the dogs that your dog is hanging out with, because all it takes is one bad moment for everything to change for your dog, their temperament and everything. Luckily, Hobbes has recovered from that very well, but like I said, you just want to avoid that. Dog parks are typically not the best situation for your dogs to be in because you don't know what those other dogs' temperament or things like that are like. You need to be careful and protective of your dog, okay? So in conclusion, Hobbes is the best dog I ever could imagine. If you're considering getting a Great Dane and you think you would love having a big, massive, cuddly, protective dog that everyone loves and that's the talk of the town, I would highly recommend it. He is one of the biggest joys of my life. And like I said, the love from a dog this big is special. And I really hope that if you're interested in it, you can experience it for yourself. So if I missed anything, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll be sure to respond. Like I said, everything is timestamped in the description, and all of my, information will also be sourced if you are interested in learning more about a Great Dane. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.